Okay, so in this tutorial we're going to work on how our character looks. So we're going to go into our UV image editor here, and we are going to take this here, so kind of know what these different bits are. And we're going to make a diffuse map. Now we could do this a couple of different ways. We could do some texture painting, and that would be one way to do it, and so or we could export the UV map into Photoshop or GIMP or something and do it that way, but let's do it in here. So we're going to go plus, and we're going to create a new image here. So let's again make this bigger, so 4096 and 4096, and we'll go OK, and we'll call this diffuse. Oops. And there we go. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to draw onto, so let's just go control up here. So we're going to draw onto this image here. So let's have a look over here at how this is set up. So it says slot and then normal map. So we don't want to draw onto that. So we want to draw onto our diffuse map, which is at the moment black. So that's the map we want to draw onto, and then we'll have to save that at the end. So we'll go back to our tools, and we'll go to, so we're on text draw, and this is white. So if we draw here, I'm just going to click on this, you'll see it pause for a second as it tries to draw a spludge of white onto the character. And what you'll find is if you try and zoom out and do very large swathes of texture painting, that it will not respond terribly well to that. So we're going to zoom in and do it a little more close up. So let's hang on for this to not sit unresponsively. Okay, so it's jumped to that there. So it's going to go in and paint onto this model. And now I'm not painting in any serious way. I'm just coloring it in so we can see it as we paint later on. And you have to paint it front and back. And you can see here I'm in solid mode. So I shouldn't have to worry too much about shadows. And you can also see I have an X mirror symmetry on, which at this stage is very helpful, but later on we'll probably turn it off if we want to make the model asymmetrical. So at this stage you can see this could take a while. So another handy way to do this, to fill in a base color, is actually to go on this side and go paint F, and then I can color this in here. Just going to slide this up to 1, and this is infinitely quicker than doing it the way I was doing it. And again, we could go into Photoshop with this or GIMP and do it that way. But let's just try and keep ourselves in Blender for as long as we can. Okay, so there's my image, and you can see that I can draw on it and give it a color. So if I go here to my textures, if you remember this was going to be my shirt. So if I move this across a little, and I press F and bring that in, and we go to our textured mode. So I can draw onto the model here directly. And again, let's just pause for a moment. Using this texture. So if I go F, okay, we can get the sense of it there. So actually, let's go to material now. So texture, sorry. There we go. Okay. Now, ideally, what we would have here would be a seamless texture, unlike the one we have, which is giving us a hard kind of line. Okay. So, you can see here, this is our shirt. I can switch out of this, so if I go back over to my textures and I'm looking for a brush texture, and we had this one here, so we'll call this jacket. That was it there. So now we can use this one to, well, let's actually try it over here. So let's draw on our texture here. Now the advantage of drawing in this window, apart from the speed, is also we're going to have a consistent sort of scale to this image that it's sometimes hard to get in the main window because you're kind of zooming in and out. So as a base sort of texture for what you're doing, this could be excellent. Okay, so there's our jacket, and we'll make sure that we haven't missed any of the seams. There we go. Okay, and let's go and now so what I'm going to do here is get an image of sort of jeans or of jean material, and we're going to make another brush over here, so we'll go plus, we'll call it jean, and we will go find our image. There we go, jean, and we're going to paint this on now. We'll put this on our trousers. So again, far from perfect, and not exactly beautiful either. So let's go back here to this UV image editor, and let's have a look at some kind of basic stuff. So I'm going to go back, so text draw, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to reduce the strength of this, but it's white, so I'm going to go F, get a bit bigger, and I'm just going to it's on view, so go back to paint, and I'm just going to make this a bit whiter. Okay, now let's see, what have we not done? So we have white hands and we have white shoes. So let's just make a very kind of generic kind of brown color and put that on the shoes. So I'll make this a bit stronger, a bit darker. There we go. So I'll put that on the shoes, and we'll make it very dark and put this on the sole of the shoe. Fine. And we said this was sort of the cuff, so that's meant to be sort of a whitish color. And also have this, so again we will press F and make this smaller. Put that on sort of the cuff of the shirt, and then remove the texture and whiten it up a bit. Okay, we'll look at our wrist. Yeah, it looks okay. And then for our ankle, we'll make our ankle, we'll pretend it's a pair of socks, and we'll give him kind of a dark purple sock. So again, we'll increase the strength of that. And sock 1, sock 2. There we go. And the last thing is skin tone. And this is the hardest thing to do, but again, we're just going to put a very simple matte over kind of a very simple sort of color at this stage. So okay, so we'll go with this color, and I'm not quite sure what this will look like, but we'll come back and do more work on it again. You can see this overlapping sort of color here, but we'll do our best. And then we will just make this a brighter, kind of grayer color for the nails. And again, we're not going to spend too much time on them. I think they're slightly green, which is not what we're looking for, but we'll survive with it for now. And we probably need to, so let me pick that color and paint that over there to get rid of the coat texture on the hand. Okay, so now I'm going to put that over there for a second, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this white, and then I'm going to make it slightly darker, and I'm going to start putting, you know, kind of dirt and shadows on this. So, but I'm going to do this in 3D. So gonna, oops, too strong. Bring that back. I'm gonna start sort of dirtying this up a bit, and maybe that's still a bit too strong. And we'll kind of give it a scuff along the underarm. And darken in sort of this area here. Around the collar. And then we'll the same along here, kind of the areas that would be kind of handled, and along sort of the base of the coat. And we'll do the same here with our jeans, and we'll make them a bit in the shade, and on the knees, and okay. Okay, and we could do this for quite a while, and so we'll actually increase the strength of that. And give this a sort of rim around the edge. And so you can, paint your entire model this way if you wanted. Whoops. And bring that back. Okay. Now, so that's going to be our diffuse image. So I'm going to go into object mode, and actually let's go back into texture paint and go to our image editor and zoom out, and we're going to save this here because this image is not saved. So we're going to go save as image, and it's called diffuse, so that's all good, and we'll go save. Now let's go out to this here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to set up the nodes for this character. So we'll go to rendered and change this to the node editor. Okay, so let's just select all of these and delete them and start from scratch. Okay, so this guy has a material called body, so let's go build this. So first thing we need is an output. So we need a material output, so that goes there, and then we're going to use the new physics-based rendering shader over here. So this is get confusing. I'm going to change that to being a timeline, and we'll connect the two of these. Now, so this is our physics-based renderer. So the first thing we want to put in is color. So it says base color here. So let's load in a texture, which is an image texture. I'm going to go open, and we're going to go diffuse, and we'll open that, and we will just plug that in there, and straight away, happy days, we're plugged in and not looking too bad. Now the next thing we want to put in is our normal map, and we're going to go texture, image texture, open, and we have our normal map here. Now we also have an ambient occlusion map, but we'll get to that in a minute. And now the normal map uses non-color data, and it's got a yellow output, and this is purple. So you can see here it goes yellow to yellow. So yellow does not match the purple. So what we need to do is we are going to add in a normal map. So we're going to add that in there. So we connect yellow to yellow, and then normal to normal purple. And hopefully what we'll get is something that gives us a bit more texture, and then we can increase the strength of this normal map and get more pronounced sort of shadowing and effects. Now I'm just going to change the background here to, at the moment it is grey, so let's make it white. And we have ambient occlusion turned on, so we can turn that off or on. We'll leave it off for now, and we'll worry about the lighting in a second. Now at the moment it's set to have no metallic sort of properties at all, but it does have a specularity, so I'm going to take the specularity down. Now every material has a specularity, but you know, clothes generally don't. Like there might be specularity on the nails or something, or on a button or stuff like that that we haven't added in, or maybe even on the leather if they were shiny shoes. But we'll take that all down. We can take the roughness down as well, or go the opposite direction. We can increase it so that it's even more diffuse. And then we've got all sorts of things like we can try and some of these are effectively, they're like varnishing the character, so we shan't do that. So for now we're just going to leave it with those two maps. So there are the two most commonly used maps. We have a shadow map that we can bring in, and we also have an ambient occlusion map, but we'll bring them in we're 23 minutes in now, so in a later tutorial maybe. So we're going to look through our camera, and that's what we see. So I'm just going to see if I can make the lighting in this a little more interesting. So I'm going to go to a spotlight and go Alt-Or and view from the side, and we'll lift this up, and let's add in a plane for our character to stand on. And there, and go GZ. Actually, let's go back to our world and make it black. Now, let's go to that lamp and increase the strength of it. And we can move it forward and then rotate it back towards the character. And give it a slightly amber kind of color to it. And make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so I'm gonna save this. We're gonna call it legs and torso and hands and detail and sculpt
and shader.
And then I'm going to render this image. So it'll be HD. I may pause this depending on how long it's going to take, so it's going to hit render. And some of the renders we were doing earlier, or the baking, where it took a very long time. But this character here, as you can see from the numbers on top, so it's got 47, nearly 48,000 verts, but it's got a lot of detail in it, and obviously the different texture maps that add to that. So it's got a relatively low poly count, and hence it should render quite quickly. And all he needs now is a hit. Alright, so we will leave it at that for now.